Today, we are going to talk the talk. And what I mean by that is, as parents, how do you navigate our living in a highly sexualized society where we've got advertisements, we've got celebrities, we've got media talking to us about sexuality and how we should be or shouldn't be. And yet, as parents, we've got to kind of bring up our kids and navigate these waters uh, in a way that is purposeful, in a way that is healthy, and the way that is safe for our kids. And yet they're being exposed to it before they even understand it. So today I've got with me the CEO of Focus on the Family Australia, Brett Ryan. G'day, Brett. How are you?
I'm very, very well, and really pleased that you're talking about this because it's such an important aspect that all parents need to, dust off their lack of confidence and dive right in there because it's a topic that needs to be spoken about not just once. It's an ongoing conversation, and it's never too early to start talking to your kids about the big issues.
I like the phrase, "If you don't focus on your family, who will?" And that's in your email signature there, Brett. But this is what it's all about. When it comes down to it, if we aren't educating our kids the way that they should go when it comes to sexuality, they're going to learn from celebrities, they're going to learn from media, they're going to learn from their friends. And if we're not going to be the point of authority there, then who will? So so talk to us. It's not a one-off chat. Did you get a one-off chat when you were a young lad, when you were a young Brett?
I can't remember specifically, and even though my dad was normally proactive, it was a healthy relationship. But I do know a number of people who had suddenly had a book just miraculously appear on their bedside table, and that's the only amount of conversation they had. So they had to fumble their way through it. And you're right, there are various ways that your children will learn the aspects. They can learn from their friends who have got a wealth of experience, or they'll go to the school, and the school will actually be dictated more about what they can and cannot share. And then they'll either turn to the internet, and the internet is always a wealth of positive experiences. So I would say, as you said so rightfully, parents, you have the first voice privilege. You need to maximize that because you've got a vested interest in your child's health and well-being. So as I said in the opening remarks, it's never too early to talk to your kids at an age-appropriate level, because it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when your kids will be exposed to this. And so we need to be much more proactive rather than reactive.
All right. So I've got an 8-year-old daughter, and obviously she's not at that teenage level, because the myth was, Brett, that when they get to their 13th birthday, all of a sudden you get the book and or you have the chat, and then you're set for life. What's a good way of approaching sexuality with my daughter, who has a limited comprehension around this, but she is absolutely very intuitive at the same time?
Yeah, that's a great question. And people say, well, what age do I start? Well, it should start, at the beginning, when they're 3 and 4 and 5, and talking about their body and how special it is and how it needs to be protected and how wonderful and fearfully made they are. And then we talk about being private and what's appropriate, what's not appropriate. So it's an ongoing conversation. For a child who's 8, it's something that, you need to have information from mum and from dad. That's the ideal. But, by the age of 10, if you haven't spoken to your child, a girl child, about the menstrual cycle, then you might be a little bit too late, because the average age of a child having their first period may be at the age of about 10 or 11. So it's better to have that conversation earlier rather than waiting till it happens, because otherwise they might say, oh no, I'm dying, what's happening to me, if you haven't had that conversation. So it's talking about it in a very matter-of-fact way. Nothing should be off the table. It should be something that they can feel comfortable talking to you about anything and everything, and you're not going to freak out. So a good phrase to remember is learn to respond, not react. Because when we react, we shut the conversation up. But when we respond, we're watching our tone, we're watching our volume, and we're giving information that will be at an age-appropriate level so they can comprehend and understand. But then we can check in on from once in a while. But if you wait until they ask the question, you may never get that question, because it's a bit uncomfortable. But I have to say, children today are more aware of things than what we were in the yesteryear. And so I think it's something that we as parents, because it's not a matter of if, they will be exposed, because that could be pornography, it could be sexting. These are conversations that we need to have, ongoing conversations with them.
Right. So I think about, the negative, like even yesterday, I was driving through town, and I had my kids in the car, and there was a bus that pulled up just with a TV show on the side of it, that it had a really inappropriate way of presenting a female on the side of the bus. I mean, and so my daughter sees that. I'm aware that my daughter sees that. So in something that's presented to us in a really negative way, Brett, how can we kind of maybe flip this to help create a healthy identity and a healthy way of looking at the world?
Yeah, it's a challenge, and you're actually able to ask your child, no matter if it's a boy or a girl, to actually say, well, what do you think about that? What are your thoughts about how that's portrayed? And again, you're bringing them in. It's a dialogue on a monologue. You're actually sort of curious about what they're thinking and how they're processing, because it's been normalized. It's been part of their, their imagery, and it's in their face constantly. So for some, my boys would say, that's just the way it is, Dad. That's the way it is. And I've taught them to divert their eyes because they were boys, because we don't want to bombard them, because what goes in will actually be processed in a way. But for a girl, you can actually say, you know what? I see you more than what is on the outside. I see from what on the inside, and you're praising their qualities, their character, more than the externals. And that's something that you have to continually, intuitively give them that information, that it's the outside's one thing, but I love the way that you are so kind and considerate and thoughtful. That's more in their identity rather than what is on the outside.
Okay, let's say, just a bit of a hypothetical situation here. We've got two parents who, let's be honest, it's an awkward thing to kind of bring up. Maybe you're a mum watching right now and you're thinking, do you know what, my husband, he's probably not on the same page. Or maybe you're a husband watching right now, you're thinking, my wife's not really on the same page. How do we get on the same page here as parents so that we can have confidence in stepping forward and being purposeful about our parenting?
We have to actually think about the common goal, and that is to give good information, healthy information, and to try and narrow the gap of, here's one person who's much more proactive than here's one who's not as active. We have to narrow that gap and come to an agreement, and to try and give the same information. And that is an ongoing conversation between parents, not the child doesn't need to get mixed up on that. And so you need to actually have those heart-to-heart conversations, say, what are your thoughts? How can we narrow this gap? Because it's confusing for the child, and it doesn't give them a confidence in facing the society's challenges. And we want the best interests of the child, not just because this is uncomfortable for me. We have to get out of our comfort zone. And it may be saying, well, that's your duty because you're the male, or that's your job because you're female. No, it needs to be done together, and give them well-informed, accurate information using the right words, not made up words, and come to an agreement. And again, it's an ongoing conversation as husband and wife, or mum and dad, to try and narrow that gap. It may never get to exactly on the same page, but that's the ideal.
All right. So I'm sure, Brett, that as Focus on the Family Australia, you guys have got some resources around this. Point us in the right direction. If we want to study this a bit better, give us a bit of, get some tools in our hands to be able to step in the right direction, what should we do?
They can go to our website, and we've actually got a whole article on talking to your kids about sex, and it's a downloadable resource. It's for free. They can go to families.org.au, and there's other things that they can do. There's a parenting toolbox that's got some other information, and there's another bigger document on how to talk to your kids about sex and an age-appropriate level and the stages and what would be accurate information. So there is plenty of information available from our website at families.org.au.
I love it, Brett. Thank you so much. Respond, not react. Dialogue, not monologue. Just some gems from you once again. Thanks for joining me today. Thanks for taking us through and talking the talk, mate.
You are more than welcome. And it is a very complex issue. And so the more informed that mum and dad are, the more confident they are to be able to handle the questions that will inevitably come from your children.